Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Elisa here with Thoughtful Creativity. Now today we have a palette cleanser project, something that comes together in about an hour, real quick, real easy, looks really nice, and this is a perfect garment for this coming fall, winter, and even spring season. Now you might not be a fan of turtlenecks, which I totally understand, we're all different, that's what makes this world beautiful, but stay with me till the end of this video. I'm gonna give you a couple of extra options for your inspiration, and I think you're gonna love them. So without any further ado, let's grab just a couple of those measurements and let's get started, because you can totally do it. So let's roll. Now, to make this really easy, we're gonna get started by drafting a rectangle, and for that we will need two measurements to get started with. One of them is going to be the length of the actual garment, and the other one is going to be the width. Now let's get started with the width. For that, just as an approximate measurement, you can then vary that. You will find a point, a middle point between your shoulder and your elbow. So somewhere in the middle. Again, you can move it up, you can move it down, depending on your preference, but to get started with, this is an approximate measure. Then take your measuring tape and going through the neck, you're gonna lay it on your shoulders. One end of the measuring tape is going to start at that point, right? And the other is going to end at exact same position. Once you have your measurement, and you want to measure it like so, because that will give us an indication how the fabric is actually going to be resting on our shoulders when our garment is done, and that's exactly what we want. So once you have that measurement, go ahead and take it off and then fold it in half, and that is the measurement that we're going to put on our pattern paper. For this next measurement, we need to know the length of the actual garment, how long we want it to be. Go ahead and take your measuring tape and place it on the nape right over here on the neck, and then right here in the middle at the center back, drop it as low as you would like it to be. Once you have that finger on your measurement, go ahead and take it away, and that's the measurement that's gonna go as the length on our pattern paper. Once both of these measurements are on the paper, go ahead and complete the rectangle by drafting the remaining two sides. Now let's go ahead and take care of the neckline. Now I will be doing a turtleneck. Now you can do whatever neckline you want to do, and we will talk about that a little bit later in the video, but right now I will be doing a turtleneck. Now turtlenecks can vary on the width of the neckline depending on what kind of fabric you're using and how much it actually stretches. Now for me, what I like to do with turtlenecks is to start small, and if needed, cut it a little bit wider, because you can always make it bigger but not the other way around. So what I like to do is I take a measuring tape, place it around your neck like so, not too tight but also not too loose, so just like that. Now take it off, and you will use 1/6 of this measurement plus a little bit for ease, like maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, maybe up to 1/2 an inch, depending on how tight you want it around your neck and how stretchy is your fabric. Now you will place this measurement right over here on top to the right and down as well. So the same measurement will go on top and on the side. Now once those 2 points for the outline of the neckline is done, let's go ahead and raise the high point shoulder by about 1 inch. So at the very edge of the neckline, go ahead and take 1 inch up. And now we're gonna connect the new point to the edge of the dropped shoulder that we've drafted before. So let's go ahead and connect, and that is going to be our shoulder line from the high point shoulder over here all the way till however long you have marked it. Now let's go ahead and complete the front and the back neckline. This pattern is going to be 2-in-1. It's going to feature the back and the front as one pattern piece, which is going to make it super easy in the drafting and in the sewing as well, since both of the sides are identical except for the neckline. Alright, now let's go ahead and cut this pattern piece out real quick, mark the direction of the stretch once that is done, and also the location of the fold, which is going to be in the middle for both center front and center back. All right, now let's go ahead and draft the sleeve pattern, and after that we're going to be almost done and we're going to start sewing. So it's going to be really quick and easy like I promised. So from the same position again between your shoulder and the elbow right here in the middle, take your measuring tape, place it around like so, and then you want to measure the circumference of your upper arm. And then you want to add about an inch of ease to it. So you don't want it to be super tight, but you also don't want it to be super loose. Again, after that you can make any variations that you would like, but this is what I'm going for my garment. So go ahead, take that measurement, add about an inch to it, fold it in half, and that's what's gonna go as the width of our sleeve. From the same position, right between your shoulder and your elbow, so right here in the middle, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna position your measuring tape. And then in a slightly bent position like so, you want to extend this measuring tape all the way to your wrist or maybe further depending on what kind of sleeves you would like. And then you want to take note of that measurement, and that is going to be the length of our sleeve. So let's go ahead and put that on our drafting paper. For the bottom of the sleeve, we're gonna do exactly the same. We're gonna measure our wrist. Here, you can either take the measurement as is or again, add a little bit of ease to it so it's not super tight. So take the measurement, add 1 inch to it, fold it in half, and that's what's gonna go on the other side of the sleeve. Once you have placed that on your pattern paper, let's go ahead and connect the bottom of the sleeve, and that's it. It's almost done. Let's go ahead and mark the position of the fold and the direction of the stretch of the sleeve as well. And here I kind of had a feeling that, okay, you know what, it's a little bit too wide and it feels like I've mismeasured my wrist, and it was true, so I redrew my sleeve. Now let's go ahead and put the sleeve together with the bodice, and let's curve in this part just by a tiny bit like you see me do on the screen. This little detail is going to help you with sewing the side seam and the sleeve all together, and you will see that in just a few moments when we get to it. All right, now that is done, we will need to cut 2 of these, both on the fold, and let's get into drafting the actual turtleneck. Now for that, you will need to take your measuring tape and measure the front and the back neckline on our pattern. Once you have that, we will need to sum them together. The sum of the back and the front neckline on our pattern piece is going to be half of the width of the actual turtleneck. So you see me draft that right over here. Now for the length, you will need to determine how long you want it to be. Do you want it to be a small one like on the red example? Do you want it to fold over like on the pink example? So depending on that, you will need to determine that length. Remember, we will fold this turtleneck in half. So whatever is the length that you want, multiply that by 2. Once you have the length and the width, all you have to do is complete the rectangle. After that, let's go ahead and not forget to mark the position of the fold and the direction of the stretch of the fabric as well. And once that is done, let's go ahead and cut it out, and we're ready to cut the actual fabric. For the fabric, you will need to use 2-way stretch or 4-way stretch knit, whichever one you have available. Here I'm working with double brushed polyester knit, which stretches in 4 directions, and I absolutely love it. The red one was a rib knit that only stretched in 1 direction. Now, how much fabric do you need is a great question. It all depends on your pattern. So make the pattern first, and then you will be able to determine how much fabric you need. You will need to cut 1 front, 1 back, both on the fold, 2 sleeves, both on the fold as well, and 1 piece for the turtleneck neckline on the fold as well. When I'm working with a design where basically the pattern pieces are 2 in 1, meaning that the back and the front are the same pattern piece except for the neckline, what I do is I usually cut 2 back pattern pieces first. Once done, I take the actual pattern, I slash the neckline till I can actually trace the front neckline, then I trace it and I cut one of the back pattern pieces off, so that way I end up with a front and the back pattern piece as intended. Now, just like in all of my videos, when I draft patterns on the paper, I do not include seam allowances. So when you're cutting your fabric, please make sure that you do not forget to add your seam allowances. Now, for knit garments, I usually add about 1/4 inch, sometimes 3/8 of an inch, and you can see that on your screens right now. First, we're going to take your front pattern piece and your back pattern piece, lay them right sides together, and we're gonna sew the shoulder seams. Now you see me pin the shoulder seams together, both the left and the right side. After that, I'm gonna sew them on my serger. Now, if you don't have a serger, don't feel discouraged. Zigzag stitch, 3-step zigzag, lightning stitch, or any other stretch stitch on your sewing machine is gonna do exactly the same job. So use what you have. After the shoulder seams are done, go ahead and lay your front and back sewn together with the wrong side up. Take one of the sleeves and then fold it in half, just like you see me do on a screen. Make a little notch at the center. Then open it up and lay it wrong side up, just like you did with your main pattern piece. Align the notch with the shoulder seam and then go ahead and pin one side of the sleeve and the other side of the sleeve to the bodice on both sides of the shoulder seam. Once you have pinned that together, go ahead and sew it. You will repeat that on both sides of the pattern. Now this is how it's going to look like from the right side of the garment once we attach the sleeve. But for this next step, you actually want to turn it wrong side out, like we're doing right now on the screen. Now we want to pin it all together. So we're going to start right over here at the intersection where the bodice meets the sleeve, and we're going to pin there first. After that, we're going to pin the bottom of the actual garment. Once that is done, we're going to move to the edge of the sleeve. And once that is done, we're going to pin everything in between. So once everything is pinned, you're going to get one long seam from the sleeve all the way to the side seam. And that's how we're going to go and sew it together. Here you might notice that the hem of the sleeve has already been finished before I started sewing the sleeve and the side seam all together. Now I finished the hem of the sleeves on the cover stitch machine, and because the hem of the sleeve is quite narrow, sometimes it might be a challenge to do that after the sleeve is sewn all together. So in this situation, I opted to do that first and then proceed with sewing the sleeve and the side seam. Now it will depend on the type of the hem that you want for your sleeve. You're going to repeat that on both sides of your garment. Alright, and now let's go ahead and take care of the actual turtleneck. Here is my turtleneck pattern that I cut from the fabric. As you see, it's a little bit shorter because that's all the fabric that I had, so I have to work with what I have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold it right sides together facing like so, and we're going to sew this edge. Once you have that done, what we're going to do is we're going to actually fold it. We're going to fold it, making sure that the wrong sides are together and the seam is matching on both sides. Once that is done, let's go ahead and make some notches. So here on the opposite side to the seam, go ahead and make notches through both layers of the fabric, like you see right now. Next, go ahead and grab your actual garment. Now we need to make notches at the center front and center back. Make sure that the shoulder seams align. For this next step, go ahead and lay down your garment flat and take your turtleneck. Now we're going to align this notch with the center front. Go ahead and pin it together, and now align the seam of the turtleneck with the center back. Since the width of the drafted turtleneck matches the length of the necklines on the actual garment, these two should match and go together perfectly. So when you're pinning, you don't have to account for stretching the neckline and sewing it as you would on a normal regular crew neckline on a t-shirt, for example. This should be super easy. Everything should match. Pin it in place, and once done, let's go ahead and sew it. Once the turtleneck has been attached to the neckline of the garment, it will look like so. And the only last two things that we have left to do before we can wear our really cozy and fun turtleneck are to finish the hems of the sleeves, if you haven't done so already, and to finish the bottom hem of our turtleneck. For that, I'm gonna fold it over 1 inch to the wrong side of the garment, and I'm going to use my cover stitch machine to finish the hem. However, as always, you can use a zigzag stitch, 3-step zigzag, straight stretch stitch, lightning stitch. You can do it by hand. You can also add a band on the bottom as well. You can do a flat lock serger seam. So many possibilities. I will leave tutorial videos for them in the info box below. Now, once that is done, go go ahead and tidy up all of the loose threads, make sure that everything is super nice and neat, and you are ready to rock your new turtleneck. And as I promised here, a couple of extra ideas how you can take the same base of drafting this turtleneck and turn it into a slightly different garment just by varying the neckline. So you can go for a regular round neck, you can go for a V-neck, you can go for cowl neck. So a minimal amount of effort will give you a really fun, different garment. So definitely take a look at that. Tutorials for the necklines will be in the info box below. And before we go, a quick reminder, if you are a member of this channel, then you do have instructional sheets available for the drafting of this garment, so definitely check out the membership tab and check out your perks. If you're not a member yet, I will leave all necessary information in the info box below in case if you would like to join. Here I would like to add that this is a loose garment by design, therefore there's a lot of ease in it. Now if you're not sure how this would look good on you or not, then go ahead and do a test garment so that way you can manage the amount of ease that there is to your own liking. Another option is also to go to ready-to-wear shops and try on some of the same designs that are available there, so that way you can make a decision whether to make it or not. Have fun with your beautiful turtleneck. I absolutely love mine, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!